Well, exciting to still be playing, and excited to be playing at home for the second week in a row. Really good football team coming in to the Dome, and we're going to have to play really well in all three phases of the game on Saturday.
All right, Zwaffer, go ahead.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Guys that have trailed going into the fourth quarter in two straight games now. I'm sure most of the time you'd rather have the game in hand by that point. But what are those two straight comebacks? What has that said about the team's resiliency and how well they've been able to play late in games?
Yeah, I think it shows that, we're a team that's going to play with confidence no matter what the situation is. You play really good teams, which we have. The last 2 weeks for sure with North Dakota State, the last game of the regular season, and now that you're in the playoffs, you're going to play a really good team every week. You're going to find yourself in situations that are not ideal, and so you have to be able to respond to those. And I thought that was one thing that our team did on Saturday is we responded at multiple times throughout the course of the game. And those responses were critical to us winning.
What have been some of those keys to staying focused in those late game situations, especially when, the first three quarters or stuff before that hasn't really been going your way?
I think number one, guys, believe in each other, and we've got a team that's close in that regard. I think Saturday's game was a really good example of in the first half, the offense responded when we needed to respond to their touchdown drives. And in the second half, when we stalled out on that opening possession, the defense responds by generating a turnover and did that one other time in the half as well. And so when guys trust each other, believe in each other, I think, sometimes they make those kinds of situations happen, and then we were able to capitalize on them.
Just how important is it to know that, your team can recover from those late game deficits and have the confidence to overcome adversity, especially in the playoffs where it's one and done?
Yeah, I think the more unique situations you play in and the more your guys experience those kinds of situations, the better and more resilient your football team becomes. We've had multiple games this year where we've had to respond to less than ideal situations, and our team has demonstrated a great deal of maturity in that regard, and as we move forward, hopefully it's prepared us to be even better.
The Athletics Department received a $5.6 million gift last week from John House, specifically meant going toward the football program. Can you just explain how significant that gift can be for your football program?
Yeah, I mean, it's just number one, tremendous support of people like Scott Jones and John House and many, many others that are committed to providing our student athletes with the best experience possible here, and that kind of support's going to allow us to be at the forefront of this ever-changing world of Division I football. And I can't thank him, can't thank them enough for their support and commitment and what that will allow us to do in the future.
Yeah, you mentioned it, 2 large donations in the past 6 months, largely in part because of the success the football program has had. What does that say about your program and the trajectory you're on with that kind of financial backing coming from alumni?
Well, we want to be a program that competes at a national level year in and year out. And in today's day and age of college athletics, having the kind of financial support that you need to be able to do that is critical. And these gifts, along with the other support that we're generating right now, are going to be major factors for us to continue to move our program forward and continue to compete at a national level.
UC Davis 42-10 win over Illinois State, a fellow Valley team. Just what were your impressions of that game and the way they played?
It was an interesting game. It was number one offensively. UC Davis, very talented football team. They've got really good skill players. One of the top running backs in the country, and a very experienced quarterback who made a lot of throws on Saturday and has made a lot of throws all year. So they've got great balance there. They were able to build a lead. Got ahead 21 or 28-10, and then scored a couple more late to really separate the game, and did a good job. Illinois State had some other scoring opportunities, but defensively did a good job of being really good in the red zone, in the high red zone, and stopping them on some real critical fourth down stops, and turned them over once down in that area. And so, it's a team that very explosive offensively, and a team we're going to have a really good plan against defensively, and execute against, and offensively a team that we're going to have to move the ball consistently against to minimize their possessions.
Last one for me, Miles Hastings, their quarterback, has been one of the most consistent and best in the FCS this season. Just what have you seen from him on film that makes him so efficient in their offensive system?
Yeah, really efficient. He's athletic enough that he can extend plays and move around the pocket, will even run, with the football. But I think he sees the field well, and doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And that's something that we're priding ourselves on offensively, is trying to minimize mistakes offensively, and they're playing a lot like that as well.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Alex Koff, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, just a couple from me this morning. These last couple of weeks, you've had a lot of guys get involved offensively. How big is that for your team to kind of distribute the wealth and not allow teams to pinpoint one or two guys?
The more guys, we feel like we've got depth at a number of positions that allows us to get multiple guys involved, and we've seen that at the receiver group. Found a couple of different ways to get the ball to Karan and Carter on Saturday for touchdowns, and the week before it was Javion Phelps, and so continuing to be able to distribute that football is a good thing. We've talked about the two running backs. L.J. Phillips played a lot on Saturday, more in a lead blocking role than in a ball carrying role, but a guy that's really stepped up in the absence of J.J. Galbraith.
And then just last one for me, atmosphere-wise, how big is it to be able to go to the Dome in a quarterfinal game like this and have a crowd that's supporting you guys?
Yeah, the crowd was really good last Saturday. In the second half, I wear the double-sided headsets. I don't hear the crowd very much, but after that first interception, I could feel the energy in the building, and offensively responded to that turnover with a touchdown, and at critical times there in the second half, our crowd was certainly a factor, and so we need that same kind of crowd again, and this Saturday in what's going to be a really important football game for our program.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Zach Borg, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good, Zach.
I know this has been kind of a weekly question, but I'll ask it. How close do you feel JJ is? Could this be the week he breaks back in?
Yeah, he's been cleared to get back in practice this week, and we'll get him in practice early in the week, see how he does. But he's definitely really, really close, and I'm optimistic that there is a definite possibility that he'll be on the field Saturday.
Well, what does it say about the offense too? The fact that we know about the way how efficient Aiden has been. Like you said, like one of the previous questions was that you've been getting the ball to different people, but just some of the play calling that we're seeing reverses and some of these plays with the game on the line, the confidence that you and Josh have to call some of these plays, that just the confidence you have right now in everybody to go with some pretty bold play calls when the season's on the line, that in the execution right now with the way the offense is playing.
Yeah, Coach Davis and the entire offensive staff, they do a really good job of game planning every week. Very detailed, try to identify whether it's a base play or what we might call an element play that, those reverses were big. Tarleton was really running to some of our run game, and so you got to have some ways that you counter that, and for us, the reverses were a part of that. I think Coach Davis done a really good job from a play calling standpoint of mixing our offense in run pass, and we needed to be productive on Saturday. We needed to score points on Saturday, and we did that. And we've had some games where and I think that's what complementary football is all about. You have some games where as the game goes on, from a defensive standpoint, things are going well, and ball possession and holding on to the football is really important. And some games where you got to be a little bit more wide open, understanding that you got to put more points on the board, and Saturday was one of those days.
Defensive side of the ball, this was the second straight game where there were some big plays kind of given up on the passing side of it, but obviously positive there was your defense came up with the 3 big interceptions in the second half. What are some things maybe you can do on that end of it just to kind of limit some of those, especially with Hastings coming in, because he is one of the better and more experienced quarterbacks at this level? What are some things to maybe try and limit some of those big plays that we've kind of seen at times throughout the last few weeks?
Yeah, that offensive system that we played Saturday was really unique. The long mesh RPO and how we played it, and it was hard for our guys to get a lot of pass rush, and so quarterback had some time and made some good reads, and put the ball in good spots, and then they had a very talented receiver that a couple of those big plays, quite frankly, were pretty amazing catches that he made. So we certainly can play better. We're a defensive football team that takes great pride in minimizing big plays, and we gave up a few on Saturday, but we countered those with a bunch of big plays ourselves offensively, and in certain, depending on who you're playing. And this week again, we've got a very explosive offense that we're facing, and that'll be one of the keys on Saturday, is we're going to try to win that balance again of big plays.
One last thing for me, I know it was mentioned, but Lan Laris, and I think the only running back at any level of college football who's run for more is obviously Genty over at Boise State. You guys have done well against the run all year, and you held the second best running back at this level, Britton, down this week. What have you seen so far in breaking down film on Laris, and what have you seen about him that's maybe a unique challenge, and how much do you think your defense kind of enjoys these challenges of maybe shutting down a run game?
Yeah, we always start first and foremost trying to minimize rush yards, and he's a very talented back. He's a guy that they don't just use in the run game. They use him in the screen game. They use him in the passing game. They'll direct snap it to him, in some wildcat packages similar to what we do with Travis Tice. And so that'll be one of the keys, minimizing. You're never going to stop a running back like that, but you try to minimize the yards that he gets and make him work for every yard, and hopefully create some off-schedule situations as a result.
All right, Jay Elson.
Coach,
Hey, Jay.
You covered a little bit on Hastings and Larison as well, but as far as every quarterback's going to have a little bit bigger challenge if suddenly they're into a one-dimensional game. Is that? I mean, you talk about stopping the run. Obviously, that's always a huge point, as you've mentioned. But because of the way they use Larison, I mean, does it make it that much more important to at least take part of his game away, since he is so effective in both?
Yeah, I think he's got big play capability and trying to minimize the big plays that he gets, whether it's making sure that on the running plays we're rallying to the tackle and, number two, understanding where he's at in the pass game because he's really good once he gets the ball in his hands, whether it's an underneath route or screen game. That'll be a big part of our plan, is knowing where he's at and understanding what they're trying to do with him in the situations where he's lined up.
When you consider Davis, in terms of resume, outside of North Dakota State, South Dakota State, it seems clearly that this is the best team that you will have faced this year. I mean, wins over Idaho and Montana, tight loss to Montana State, albeit at home. How impressive has it been, the season that they've put together, and just does that have you kind of on high alert just because of obviously the situation and how important it is to just, you got to win to keep playing, but noting the quality of this opponent and how challenging they might be to that perfect dome record this year?
Yeah, I mean they're a really good football team, and I mean there's a reason why they're ranked 5th in the country in the top 5. They've had some really good wins. They're like us. They've been in some close ball games and have found ways to win as well. But they've got the kind of talent at every position. You look at them. They're big on defense. They're big on the offensive front, and got the perimeter skill players that we've talked about, and a really good quarterback. So they're a complete football team. It's going to be a game where we understand we're going to have to play well in all 3 phases: offense, defense, and kicking game, and do all the little things right that we've been doing to this point.
Specifically to you guys, Aiden, obviously his numbers and his leadership, and you've talked at length about all of those things. But just, do you feel like he just looks so calm and collected right now? And I know that's, confidence in what you guys do and confidence in his abilities, but at the same time, it does feel like he's reached another level in that way. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I'd use the word. I think he's playing very maturely. He's playing with great confidence. I think he has a really good understanding every week of the scheme and what we need him to do, both in the passing game and any adjustments or checks that he needs to make at the line of scrimmage. And when a quarterback is playing confidently, they are. Have a much higher likelihood of being successful, and he's seen things well. Part of that is, I think, offensively, again, we're doing a good job of putting a game plan in that allows him to utilize the strengths that he has as a football player, and it also shows his attention to detail and how hard he's working during the week to be prepared for Saturday afternoon.
Curious, obviously his dad's well known. Curious what your experience with in terms of the relationship between them, and how Todd has maybe helped in his development, and what that's been like to watch as a coach.
Yeah, I've told a couple people this. I mean, Aiden grew up around and being a quarterback. from day one, he was around a dad that was a quarterback, and there's a lot of things that I think just naturally, rub off through that relationship, watching his dad and learning from his dad. And certainly his dad had an involvement as he developed as a high school player. And I think a certain level of, that level of confidence that I talked about is just, him and a part of that relationship, and the fact that in addition to our coaching staff, he's got a guy that he can lean on a little bit that's been in those shoes and had to make those kinds of decision on game day. I think that certainly has been a big part of his development and a big part of his success.
He's had a nice weapon that's gotten just that much more prevalent as the season has gone on, and Karan. And what's been unlocked there? Because it's going to take some time when he's transitioning in from Iowa State, and it's going to take him a while to get up to speed. You knew the big play capability was there because of his attributes, but he's another guy that seems to really be peaking this year at the perfect time for you and making plays weekly at this point.
Yeah, well, I think part of it is he's grown in his familiarity with the system. He didn't have the benefit of spring practice per se to the extent that as he learns the system, there is a little bit of learning curve there, and he's gotten better every week in that regard. I think the other side of that is we've found more ways to utilize him, and I go back to our offensive staff. I think our staff has done a really good job of identifying the strengths of our individual players, and I think you have to do that offensively. And say, hey, here's ways that we can utilize this guy's strengths, just like, your quarterback and Aiden, he's got strengths that we're trying to utilize in our system, and finding ways to get Karan the kind of touches that can be meaningful, similar to some of the other skill guys in our program, like Keandre Jones-Logan, finding ways that we can utilize him and in specific situations, but guys that we need to have the ball in their hands. And so you look at our offense, and, we were doing that when JJ was healthy. Obviously, Carter Bell, a guy that is very consistent in that regard, and those other two that I mentioned, along with the running backs, all having a plan as a part of our game plan where we're going to find meaningful opportunities to get those guys the ball in their hands.
Can you speak a little bit to the dimension that he gives your offense that isn't common?
Yeah, I think offensively, you always want somebody that can take the top off of coverage, and he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he has that kind of speed. And if you're going to play, man-to-man coverage, or you're going to play, without high safeties, he's got an opportunity to run by people, and that creates a threat offensively that in our system is really, really valuable. And was something that, even though Carter runs well and he can be that kind of guy, to have another guy like that in your offensive system is important.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And Ian Sachs, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good.
How much motivation do you and the team take from knowing that this is the quarterfinals where your season ended last year?
Obviously, we want to go further. That's been the goal from the very beginning. And so I don't know if it's as much in reference to last year as just the fact that this team's got a goal to that this game is another step towards that ultimate goal. And and an important step, and certainly excited to have that opportunity be at home again.
What would it mean to punch your ticket to the semifinals and make it the furthest that you have at the FCS level?
Well, you're one more step closer to the ultimate goal of winning a championship, and that's something that this team is striving to do. This team's been working hard from day one to make that become a reality, and you got to take obviously 1 week at a time. We found a way to win last week, and that's what we've got to do this week. We've got to find a way.
What was the most impressive part of that comeback win on Saturday?
I think it was just a combination of when we came out in the second half. And again, the defense had been struggling, in the first half to stop Tarleton's offense. And we come out with our first possession and go 3 and out. And, and defensively, we make a play. We generate an interception. I think that was Shaheed Barrows' interception. Flipped the field position around, and then the offense getting that ball in the end zone. I think that was a huge confidence and momentum swing that maybe dictated the way that the second half was going to play out.